Interviews. Interviewing is the art of being inquisitive with a touch of sophistication. But even the lack of sophistication can be covered up under the name of an in depth interview. For your interviews start even before you are born. Ask your mother how the interviewer, who often happened to be a neighbor, interviewed her about you. Perhaps that was the only interview in your life in which you had no option but to keep mum and let your mum speak on your behalf. Interviews were basically invented by mankind to fill up the time from the moment the man wakes up in the morning till the time he retires to bed at night. Later, interviews came to be known as the chief occupation of social scientists and journalists. As the interviewers' number increased in geometrical proportion, new methods of interviewing were discovered. They now range from a one to one question answer session to video interviews on Skype. As the technology progressed, more and more people want to be seen themselves being interviewed by newspapers and TV channels. So, the anchors on these channels have a tough time these days. Everybody wants to speak and nobody wants to listen to anybody. We, the viewers, are left with one and the only option to switch the TV off. Those who cannot make it to a TV channel have a new avenue readily available, a podcast on YouTube. Self promotion is always the best policy, you see. An interviewee is not happy if the journalist only publishes his interview. It must have his photograph inset. This is more so in the book release program. Clever authors and publishers therefore arrange to release the book at the hands of the newspaper editor. This arrangement is bound to get a group photo of all the concerned, the author, publisher, and the editor. The photo will appear at least on page 3, if not on the front page. While journalists bluntly ask any question, social scientists are taught to be cautious in choosing words. A PhD student would never begin his question with a why. He would extract the why behind any issue in a roundabout manner by asking what, whether, when, etc. The hidden psychological reason may vary per psychologist, but the real reason is the why is never ending. This reminds me of a game we used to play during childhood to irritate a storyteller by asking him why after every sentence. He would then give up his storytelling and we would all laugh. This was, of course, for fun. Interviews, and that too for a study, is a serious matter. Social scientists, therefore, plan their exploration very carefully. Their half an hour interview is a tightrope talk of 2-minute prelude plus 27-minute question answer session plus 1 minute Thanksgiving. This schedule is subject to collapse because the moment the interviewer concludes his Thanksgiving, there is a counter interview. And guess who interviews whom? The interviewee starts interviewing the interviewer. You have guessed it right. He is inspired by none other than the interviewer for whom he spared so much time and energy. Social scientists are taught to pay attention to the nonverbal communication of the interviewee. It means that the interviewer has to observe if the interviewee yawns during the interview, whether he is munching or eating and talking, eating alone or shares with the interviewer whatever he is eating, etc. Nonverbal communication is almost non existent in the current practice of video calls, for both are camera conscious. Similar was the case with the tape recorder of the yesteryears. Both the interviewer and the interviewee kept talking without looking at each other. Yes, you guessed it right. Both of them were looking at one and the same thing, the movement of the tape, and worried if the recorder would stop abruptly. Journalists' way of interviewing are simple. After three such interviews, you can predict their questions. If there is a prestigious award winner, they would invariably ask, "How are you feeling after receiving this award?" Now tell me, is it not very obvious that the recipient would be very happy? Journalists are most comfortable while interviewing politicians. That's because the political situations across parties do not vary much. The same common problems of tussle over seats when elections are declared, unhappy members being lured by the political opponents, getting meager funds for campaigning, etc. Frequent interviews with politicians has helped the journalists gain the rarest of the rare lifetime benefit which you and I will never get: conquest over anger. Tell the journalist anything and they immediately say, "Can you please elaborate?" When I heard this question a couple of times during interviews of some people, I realized that these journalists had not done any homework on the subject of interview. Once a journalist asked me, "Why are you so happy today?" "That's because there is nothing to be unhappy about," I replied. "Can you please elaborate?" Quickly came the question. "Well," I said, "do one thing. Take a good shot of my broad smile from one ear to another. This will answer your question and amuse the viewers too." "Oh, sure, I would love to do that," my interviewer said. "But, ma'am, please don't catch me if my video editor shortens it before the telecast."